So you want to be doing this.
River 1 in heading 130. River 1-1, cleared on.
Altitude. Altitude.
River 1 off safe 2-way. Boom! 1-1, good hit. River 1-2, contact lead 10. Same position, 2.
But instead, you're doing this.
Ma, the meatloaf!
Today we'll talk about a few techniques on the path to becoming a fighter pilot. Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Mondays with Mover. I am Mover C.W. Lemoine, author of the Spectre series and the Alex Shepard series. On that note, thank you everybody that's purchased the Shepard series or the Spectre series. Since these videos have started airing, I really appreciate it. And so that helps keep the channel going. So if you want to support the channel and you like aviation, the Spectre series is a good series to pick up. It's military espionage thriller, former F-16 pilot who's trying to find his missing fiance, who's also an F-16 pilot. So check out Spectre Rising. I will leave a link in the description below, and that will help me out. And if you don't like that, if you like more law enforcement, terrorism kind of stuff, I recommend the Alex Shepard series, starting with Absolute Vengeance. That's actually the one we're working on developing for a possible TV series. So with that said, Bill's getting paid. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. Today we are going to talk about part 2 of becoming a fighter pilot, and I will give you my techniques on kind of how to make those first steps and how to get started. The whole technique versus procedure, kind of a common term in fighter lingo, but just to explain, a procedure is something that, no kidding, is written in a regulation. It's written somewhere -1, NATOP, something like that. That's something you have to comply with. A technique is just, Mover's idea, best practice of how to go about doing something. It's not required. If it doesn't work, then, it's no big deal. It's just, based on kind of what I've gone through, maybe it might help you out, maybe not. So just to get started, I've talked about the job of being a fighter pilot. I think it's the greatest job in the world. You're going to meet some of the greatest people. You're going to serve with highly intelligent, highly motivated bros, which are men and women. It's not just guys. Everybody's a bro. But, you'll make long-lasting friendships that, from hanging out in the ready room, from hanging out in the squadron. I still hang out and talk to my friends from pilot training, and it's a great job. It's really worth the effort, but there is some effort that you're going to have to put forward. So that's kind of the first thing. We'll talk about, I've kind of broken it down into 5 steps that I think might help you in going from there. So. All right, so I think the first step in becoming a fighter pilot, step 1 is decide that you want it. And that might seem, kind of funny because you're on a YouTube channel, you're probably looking up how to become a fighter pilot. There's not a whole lot of information out there, and you're like, well, I've already decided that. But you really have to understand what you're getting yourself into and what you're deciding. Every fighter pilot in the U.S. military is an officer, which means you've got a 4-year degree. You've gone through officer training school and all that stuff. And the first thing you'll do when you go to officer training school, or when you even first enlist before you go to officer training school, is you're going to take the oath. And that oath says, I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's important. You are giving Uncle Sam a blank check, payable up to and including your life, to go and defend our nation and our nation's interests. So you have to be willing to do that. And I've put a video up. It's called Memorial Day Tribute. I'll link it up above. But that video should kind of give you kind of an idea of what's at stake. I've lost several friends, not just in peacetime, in training accidents, because it's a very dangerous business, and you have to be willing to sacrifice yourself for a greater cause, and you also have to be willing to be someone who does that, someone who defends freedom, and not to not to beat the patriotic drum too much, but when I first started, I was like a dog chasing my tail, right? I went through, I called all these units, I got hired as a student hire, and then I finally got it. I finally got my pilot slot, and I was like, wow, I don't know, do I actually want to do this? And my mentor at the time, who I'd worked for a really long time, because I'd been eat, sleep, breathe, fighter pilot stuff, said, you need to go sit on your back porch and decide that this is what you want to do. Not just being a fighter pilot, but you have to want to put the uniform on. You have to want to serve, because that's what you're doing. If you want to just fly fighters for fun, then I recommend you go become a billionaire like Steve Jobs type and buy your own jet, because otherwise you're flying for a mission. You're supporting the grunt in the the foxhole, the 18-year-old that has to put boots on the ground. And you have to be willing to do that, because it's not always, as I've shown in my other videos, it's not always going to go the way you think. You might have a medical issue come up, you might needs of the Air Force, needs of the Navy, they might need you somewhere else, and you have to be willing to serve in that capacity. So it's very important, that you decide you want to do it, and then you go get it. So you not only have to have the drive and the desire to be, a fighter pilot, but you have to have the drive and desire to be a military officer to serve your country. The other part of that too, I've seen this comment a couple times, it is not a stepping stone. A couple people have asked me, is that the best way to go to the airlines? If your idea is, I'm going to go be a fighter pilot because it makes me competitive for the airlines, you're wrong. That is not what you become a fighter pilot for. It is a great benefit once you get towards the end of your career. It is a great thing, you've got great training. You're going to have the best training in the world. So obviously your skills are going to be highly desired once you get in the civilian sector, but that's not the reason you become a fighter pilot. It's a terrible reason. You're not going to do well if that happens. So that's step one, decide, and then you can go from there. Okay, step two, we talked about, the desire. Now we need to talk about what kind of mindset you need to have. Some people say, being a fighter pilot, it's a mentality. You're born a fighter pilot. You're cocky, you're aggressive, all that stuff. Some of that's true. A lot of that is just confidence that people think is cockiness or whatever. Because you've obviously gotten good training. You've done a lot of cool things. And kind of where you stand in the aviation community. But it's really a mindset of like the weapons school says, you need to be humble, you need to be credible, and you need to be approachable. If you have those three things throughout your career, you will succeed. Humility is very important, because the guys that I saw not get fighter slots were the guys that showed up on day one of pilot training saying, I'm going to be a fighter pilot. There's no other option. I'm a fighter guy no matter what. You can maybe internalize that, but just because you think, you want to be a fighter pilot, you can't be all or nothing. You have to understand that, not everybody's cut out for this. Like my squadron weapons paper used to say, or the weapons newsletter used to say, the world needs ditch diggers too. Every mission in the Air Force and every mission in the Navy is a support mission. And I talked about that a little bit earlier, but you are supporting that 18-year-old holding a rifle in a foxhole. Everything is a support mission after that. Dropping bombs to strike a headquarters is so that you can get boots on the ground to hold that territory or to support our national interests. Close air support, you're directly supporting the warfighter, which I think is one of the greatest missions we have. OCA, offensive counter air, the F-15s and the F-22s escorting the strike package, you're supporting that strike package. DCA, you're defending a point, so that's defensive counter air. You're supporting the commander's objective to defend that point, probably your own troops. Tankers are supporting, the other heavy lift assets or the fighters to get to that point. Airlift is moving the troops to the different places. Helo, CSAR, they're picking up guys that have been shot down. I mean, you can see every single thing. You might think you're at the pointy end of the spear, but you're really not. You're a support asset. So to think that you're the only mission is just wrong. You need to have that humility to know that you're not the mission, you're just part of a bigger piece of the puzzle. So having that humility is good. Having that ability to, when things don't go your way, you don't melt down, because if you're at assignment night and you're an active duty guy and, they say, hey, needs of the Air Force, guess what? You're flying tankers, you're not flying fighters. If you break down and cry and melt down, it's going to be your tears of sadness and everybody else's tears of laughter, because people are just going to laugh at you. It's just silly. You shouldn't be doing that. I had a good friend, great story about that. he went to NJEP, Euro-NATO Joint Jet Pilot Training. Back 10 years ago, NJEP at Shepherd was a guaranteed fighter slot. If you went to NJEP, you were going to fly T-38s, you were guaranteed to go. And what happened to him, needs of the Air Force, they reshuffled, and he ended up flying KC-10s. Well, okay, you would think, some people would be disappointed. He was. I mean, it wasn't, he wanted to be a fighter pilot, but he didn't let it get it down. He went to KC-10s, did really well in what the mission he was given, took it upon himself, started applying to the U-2, and now he's flying on the edge of space as a U-2 pilot. He made something out of the hand he was dealt, and that is a fighter pilot mentality. It's not necessarily all flying fighters. Being approachable is important. That it's when you help others, you learn yourself, and I'm going to talk about that in the pilot training video. Being able to sit down with a buddy and help learn some of the systems is going to be huge. So you have to be approachable. People have to like you. In some fighter squadrons, especially Guard Reserve, they're hiring for 20 years. They're hiring for your whole career. So if you're not approachable, no one's going to hire you. You could be the greatest fighter pilot in the world. If nobody likes you, you're probably not going to be a fighter pilot. It's just, it's a whole person concept. It's part of the bigger picture. So it's very important that you're, also approachable. And then credibility. Credible is important. That's one of the things I worry about making these videos, because, you want to be a credible, when someone asks you a question, when somebody seeks advice from you, you don't want to just say the first thing that comes to mind and, it's a wrong answer. It's better to say, I don't know, I'll look that up, than to, just make something up and go. And so you want to establish credibility early on, which, integrity, being honest, being, willing to go get that information, so that you maintain and establish a level of credibility will help you throughout your career. You have to be willing to go out and get stuff. I know with technology and YouTube and everything, people think that things are going to get spoon-fed. You have to go out and get it. You have to go find the information yourself. You have to be willing to do the work. No one is going to hold your hand. No one is going to spoon-feed you anything. Navy pilot training is very gentlemanly in that they give you enough rope to hang yourself. Everybody says, well, it's not easier. It's just they expect you to show up prepared. No one's going to prepare for you. No one's going to give you the work ethic to do it. You're going to have to get that mindset of, I'm going to study, I'm going to chair fly, I'm going to show up prepared for everything I do. Good example of that, if you're rushing a squadron, and you're, going to, let's say, the Montgomery Air National Guard. I love to use them as an example. They're a great unit. And you don't know what they even fly, probably not going to work out well for you. That's the kind of thing, you have to do the research yourself. You have to find out. And then the final thing of that is you have to have a thick skin. And this goes, throughout life. If you cannot take criticism, because that's essentially what a debrief is. Every time we fly, we're going to come back and debrief and talk about lessons learned. If you can't take criticism, and if you can't sit there and let somebody else tell you what you've done wrong without the urge to say, well, I was thinking, well, arguing your point, trying to say, no one cares what you were thinking. That's just the fact of life. You have to be able to take it and internalize it and make yourself better. Because if you're going to argue, if you have a very thin skin and, any little thing offends you, it's not the job for you. It's not going to work out very well for you. You're going to have issues. So that's step 2. Get the mindset, make sure you're in the right mental frame of mind. So step 3, do your research. I'm going to put some websites down in the description below, and I recommend them. Take this opportunity to go to the various websites that are available to you right now, and obviously you're doing that with this video, which again, I am not a recruiter. I'm not the be-all end-all. I would not use these videos as your sole, means of knowledge. If you go to a board or something and say, well, Mover said, it's not going to end well for you. In fact, they're going to laugh at you and they're going to come back and laugh at me because, who am I? Yes, I've done it, but, it's been 10 years. So, do your own research. There's a couple good websites. I got my start. It used to be baseops.net, which it still is. Now it's flyingsquadron.com/forums. It's a message board that has a lot of good information. A lot of real fighter pilots are there that post and answer questions and stuff. And you can find out kind of what your chances are. As I talked about in the previous video, that's how I found the director of operations at the 706 Fighter Squadron's number. One guy saw that I was interested. He private messaged me and said, hey, have you tried this guy? And that, basically is why I'm here today. So go to that website, read, don't post. It's probably search before you post. And then so read, search. If you still can't find it, search again. If you still can't find it, search it one more time, try some different words, and then post if they absolutely cannot answer your question. But aviation medicine, what are my chances, when the next board is, a lot of that stuff's covered. There's also websites like guardreservejobs.com that'll tell you when the next UPT board is, bogeydope.com. Base Ops itself has, kind of a road to wings tutorial that'll help you out. So a lot of good information out there. Google is your friend. Do the research, do the legwork. Don't expect somebody to do it for you. It goes back to the mindset. You have to be willing to do this on your own. But I'll put the links in the description. They will help you out. They'll give you kind of some light reading to kind of get you on your way. And those places are where you're going to find out when the next board is, how to prepare for the AFOQT, all that stuff. So do your research. Step 4, prepare. So what does that mean? So depending on what method you're going to go, if you're a high school student, you've got essentially your whole life ahead of you. You can go to the Air Force Academy, you can go to Air Force ROTC, you can wait, get your degree, get active duty OTS board, officer training school slot, you can go to Guard, Reserve, board and meet. I'm going to talk more towards the OTS or the Reserve Guard because I actually talked to a recruiter last week and kind of asked him these questions for you guys. So let's say you decided to go AFRC, Air Force Reserve Command, but you don't know how to find a unit. You can find your officer accessions recruiter for your area and contact him. He or she will then give you the point of contact for a chief pilot or somebody in charge of hiring. At that point, that person will then tell you what's required to apply and when the next board is. The recruiter can either schedule you for the AFOQT, Air Force Officer Qualification Test, and you can go take that test at MEPS, or you can go to your local ROTC detachment and take the test on your own. They'll let you do it. They'll tell you what days they're having it, and you can take that test. So that's an option. Once the AFOQT is done, you can go back to that recruiter. You're going to have to take the TBAS test. I think it's the test of basic aviation skills. It's a little hand-eye coordination test. You combine those two tests, you'll get what's called a PCSM, Pilot Candidate Selection Method. And that is a 1 to 99 score that gives you, that adds in your flight time, and it adds in those two scores, pilot for your AFOQT and your TBAS, and gives you, a 1 to 99 score, 99 being, hey, he's going to do really well in pilot training. That is what will help make you competitive for OTS boards. That's what's going to make you competitive for, off the street boards for a reserve unit or a guard unit. But the thing is, remember, it's a whole person concept. Your GPA should be good for whatever your major is. If you have a 3.0 in, music studies, it's probably not as good as a 3.0 in engineering degree or hard science or something STEM. So for those tests, you need to study. It's just like the ACT. It's just like the SAT. It is something that requires prep. There are prep books you can buy on Amazon, I think. I don't know. All that stuff you can find on the websites I talked to you about. But you need to prepare. You need to prepare to take these tests. You need to prepare, learn the unit history that you're applying to, kind of learn what they fly, learn why. Don't just show up to a board and say, well, I want to be a fighter pilot because I want to be a fighter pilot. Know what their mission is. Say, hey, you're an A-10 unit. I think close air support is a great mission. I love supporting the troops on the ground. I can't wait to be able to do that. Stuff like that will help you. So prepare mentally and prepare physically. So, the Air Force and the Navy both have physical standards. Look those up. That's part of your research. Find out what they are and start training for it. Get your body prepared to run the PT test, do the push-ups, do the sit-ups. But also, if fighters are what you want, then, you need to start working anaerobic stuff too, because G-force tolerance is based off of, core strength, leg strength, and there's some exercises you can find online to do that. And then finally, mentally prepare. Prepare for the test, but also prepare yourself, have options. Don't just be all or nothing, fighter pilot or else, get used to the idea that the needs of the Air Force or the needs of the Navy are going to trump, or Marine Corps, whatever you do, are going to trump yours. So, be okay with the idea that, hey, if I'm pushing 30 and I don't have a slot, in a fighter unit, I'm going to apply everywhere. I'd rather be a military pilot than nothing. Just prepare yourself, remember there are other opportunities once you're in. It's a great opportunity to get really great training and be a part of something much bigger than yourself. So it's always good. All right. So step 5, once you've prepared, once you've taken the tests, once you've done all that, is start applying. So you've taken the tests. Now you can start applying to all these units, or you can apply to OTS and all that. Go to the websites I talked about. Find out when the board is. Put it together. Have attention to detail. When you're putting your application together, if they say, hey, list, every course you've ever taken and what grade you got, not that they would do that, but I'm just saying, have that attention to detail. Do exactly what they say. Even if you think it's the stupidest thing ever, do it. It doesn't cost you anything. It's not hard, but you need to do it. Put in the FaceTime. If the unit says, hey, we're inviting UPT applicants out for a meet and greet or whatever, go. FaceTime is what's going to get you hired. That's how you make those connections. Somebody asked in the comment, well, I don't even know how to make the connections. Well, this is how. You have to do the research. You have to do the legwork. And if you're Air Force Academy or whatever, start applying. There's Academy liaison officers that go to high school. Start talking to them. They'll tell you how to get your foot in the door and how to apply and how to be competitive and all that stuff. So step 5 is really just go get it. Go out and take it, because again, no one's going to give you this. No one will ever hand anything to you. You might be lucky. Luck plays a big, I've always said, or it's a famous expression, I'd rather be lucky than good, because luck plays a part of it. Sometimes, just falls your way. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it, but put yourself in a position that when luck does fall your way, you're able and you have the ability to succeed and take advantage of that opportunity. Kind of a quick and dirty. Like I said, I'm not doing any. I'm not an interview prep company. I'm not a hiring company. I'm not on any hiring boards for any Guard Reserve units right now. It's been 10, 12 years since I've done this. This is not the be all end all. You guys know my story. I'm just trying to help get you guys in the right mindset, and hopefully, if you don't know where to go, this will kind of give you that first step forward. For some people, they say, well, I just went to the academy and all of a sudden I was, got a pilot slot and I was flying fighters and it just worked out, which some people, that's their story. For other people, though, it takes a lot of work, and you have to be willing to do that to succeed. So hope you've enjoyed this video. Like I said, please like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Pick up a book. That helps me out. And on that book front, by the way, I'm still writing 2 books, and we're working on the treatment. Probably shouldn't have said Netflix, because it could be anybody. It could be Amazon or whatever. We're working on an episodic treatment for Absolute Vengeance to kind of make it a 12-hour series, if you will. And that is progressing fairly well. I'm very happy with that. And then actually started writing 2 books. I'm writing a Alex Shepard book 3 and then a Spectre book 8. There's so every other day I'm writing. So staying busy, and then in about a week or so, I actually finally start hopefully flying for the military again. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And on the next couple of videos, we'll talk a little bit more about the hiring process, what to do, do's and don'ts, and how to be successful through the process. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate the support and all the comments, and I will see you next time.